What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eastern Current. I'm super excited about this episode. When we get to go like real gear focused is definitely my favorite. I like reels and tackle and all that kind of stuff. And so today is going to be a cool episode where we kind of get to talk through the story of a company that started making reels and has really made an awesome name for themselves. But before we get into that, I'm going to do a little bit of pre-show stuff. As y'all always hear me talk about, go check out the listener Facebook page, Eastern Current Fishing, so y'all can kind of connect with each other. Maybe make a fishing buddy or two off of that. And also, if you do really like this podcast, check out our Patreon account. You can donate $5 or $10 a month. That really helps us pay for all the back end stuff here and our time invested into it. Or if you just want to do $1 a month or something like that, you can do your own custom amount. I want to thank our sponsors real quick too, which are here we go, AFCO, iStrike, and then Eastern Angling's my guide business. So go check out AFCO and iStrike. AFCO is really awesome gear and clothing brand, and then iStrike it makes some incredible jigs and other pieces of terminal tackle. But that's enough of me rambling. I'm going to bring on our guests, Ryan and Wes from Seigler Reels. What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
How you doing? Nothing much. Y'all, I can already tell it's going to be a good podcast. Like when I get on with somebody and we start talking, and then it's just like already good conversation before I can press record. I'm like, oh crap, let's press record. So excited to have y'all on today. We've been trying for a little while, but the world's been pretty crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah. So let's talk about y'all's kind of individual fishing stories and then kind of how it came together to Seigler.
All right. I guess I'll start first.
Cool.
I'm the newest member of Seigler. So I actually met Wes in the fall at a fly fishing tournament here called Legends of the Fly.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's for Project Healing Waters pretty much, and it's a slam series tournament, redfish, striper, and speckled trout. So I end up going there just to meet a couple of fly fisher guys because I don't see too many people fly fishing salt around here.
Yeah.
And then I saw this little kid sitting in the corner at the captain's meeting with a Seigler hat on. I was like, I think I've seen him before. So I went up and introduced myself, and his name's William. He's actually one of our machinists here. And he was at the captain's meeting. Wes was, I think it was in Denver for IFTD.
Yeah, that was a late night.
Yeah. The next morning, and I was talking to William and told him, hey, I'm fishing by myself. You want to come on my boat, you can. He's like, I'm fishing with Wes. We're supposed to take some vets out. And sure enough, like an hour later, I was like, hey, man, Wes is going to take them both on his boat. Do you mind if I come on your boat? Like, sure. So we meet up in the morning, and we both just traveled together all day long and went out, and it was a good day. I mean, took some pictures, and then we started talking ever since.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. Like, so everybody knows about IFTD and like how the show closes and you have to fly out of a town on like a Friday. I knew this tournament was going to happen. Knew IFTD was going to happen, but I was like, God, there's no way in the calendars that's going to be on the same weekend that I finish. And I remember calling William and saying, dude, I need my boat full of fuel, rods and the gunnels. I was like, I need everything. I need you to find out any, locations. I haven't been home for pretty much a week and a half. And I'm like, we got these older gentlemen, we're taking fishing, and let's figure it out. And when we started that morning, I think my flight was delayed. I left Denver that night. It kept getting delayed for storms. I think we left out of Denver like 11 o'clock p.m.
Oh, golly.
So I get to my house at like 2:45 in the morning. I literally like look at the boat in the driveway. I was like, all right, I had the truck already hooked up. They hooked it up. And I remember picking him up from a hotel, and I go down, and this guy's down at the boat landing, and he is in his little skiff, and I'm looking over. I'm like, all right, it's dark. I got these vets that have been waiting since probably like 4:30, and I'm like, I'm just trying to find coffee. There's nothing open at 5. Early start. Let's get on the water at 5, and I'm thinking like, wow, it's just at like Norfolk Airport like an hour and a half ago. So this dude's like sitting there, and the first thing I knew about him was like, who is this guy? Where is he taking us? I kind of followed him around, and I was like, man, just give us the lead. We got to get these guys on some fish. I mean, who cares about what we're doing? And, in tournaments, everybody talks that game, right? In the beginning. And then you go, they're gone.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, I really didn't catch anything right back there, but there's nothing back there. Or they slip away, and you never see them again.
Oh, for sure.
It was the first time I realized Ryan was a cool dude is they pull up on this edge, and these gentlemen, they could make about they make about 15-foot casts maybe. And I'm in my boat and I'm like behind them and they're like, boom, hooking up. Him and William are catching these little stripers. And I'm like, rock on. So I have my trolling motor on. I'm like getting a little closer to them. I'm like, I can try to make this cast. I'm like, I can't quite get there. Next thing you know, I power pull one down and then I'm moving a little closer. Next thing you know, I'm looking at them. I'm like, I drive right in front of them, like literally come across their whole side, like side to you. Got them about 10 feet from a bulkhead. Power pull down. They made a little roll cast. Boom, catch a striper.
Yeah.
There was awesome. No anger. There was nothing, other than like just cool vibe. And then we left that little spot. Those little guys, we got them on some fish, and they kind of moved on looking for the others. And that's kind of how it started. And then later in the day, they were calling me and, hey, what you got? And it just kind of kept going. Like they were looking after, especially Ryan was looking after us, making the day special for those guys. And it just started going from there. The guy took a photo of us on the water, and I'm, on the bow of the boat. I remember the picture. I'm like, he's hovering behind us, just taking shots. And I'm still like, who's this guy? Like, what is he doing? And we left the day, and I get an Instagram post of, from Ryan of the boat with the guys on it, and it was done just right. Like the way I like the picture taken and stuff, and you kind of knew the style was the same. And, just kind of started there, and William told me, he's like, man, he's really interested in maybe working together, and just was like, hey man, if you want to come on board, there's going to be sacrifices because we're not we're not a huge corporation. We're just these couple dudes make fishing reels, and came on board, made those sacrifices. We get him a little office space, and he just started going. And pretty cool. So
that's super cool.
That's kind of how we met, and it's been a great situation, and just been thankful to have him here.
Yeah, I think that like we talked about this before we started recording was one of the best parts about Seigler, and there's other companies like this, but not in the real world really. The relationships that y'all have built together, and that's kind of how everything's formed and grows is through personal relationships. And you were sharing a little bit about that with like Will Huffine and some of those guys, and
Yep.
I just think that's really cool that's kind of the basis of Seigler, is like relationships. And even like I wanted to talk about this too, was like what y'all do with if you catch these 3 fish on this reel, we give away a free reel, which is so cool on your fly reels. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that just breaks into like the relationship aspect of it more. Like you've got this reel, but like keep interacting with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the big thing about the fly business, so we all made conventional reels before, and it was the same thing. I mean, even on our reel it says our words are guaranteed, and you kind of do that with your friends. It's like, hey bud, you're like, man, this boat's good. You're selling a boat or a motor or whatever. Like, man, it's good, man. And you trust. It's a trust.
Yeah, for sure.
That we do. I mean, our products are expensive, and some are better values than others in some ways.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like no matter what happens, just tell us really what happened so we can make it better. If the reel was a problem, or if it was a circumstance that happened, it went overboard, and you caught it, and it was underwater for a day or 2 or 3, and we've seen it. We're like, don't worry, dude. Like, just get it to us, and let's take care of it. The relationships are what it's about. Otherwise, we'd have quit this thing a long time ago because this is like misery. I mean, in some days, like situations like now, I mean, we talked about, all the companies out there, people having to be let go. And for me, it's like we all had a meeting right when I came back in town from Florida. I was down with Joel Dickey trying to get his head good and pumped up and stay positive. And during when the whole outbreak just started going nuts. And I just told everybody, like, we're all going to have to make sacrifices, but we will live. Like, if a couple guys can't afford what they're going through in life, I said, just, if you have to, I mean, honestly, I was like, if you have to move in with me and my wife, like, we do it.
That's
like,
awesome.
You can't do this, we do it. Like, either you're here and we're all going to sacrifice together, but we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we believe that about our customers too. And, we know hardships happen and situations happen, but when we first started making these reels, I always felt like you save all your money and then you buy it and something goes wrong. We've all done that. Like every one of us has bought something and got it home and been like, oh, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it just happened and it's my fault. Or that stinks and I just wasted my money. And we want to eliminate that, you know. And one of the things was the fly reels were so different, and I didn't think we were ever going to sell a fly reel. It's crazy. It's a crazy idea. It's I made it just for me. I didn't really care to sell them. It was a distraction. I like fly fishing. I love fly fishing. I like big, mean fish, and I like smashing them, you know. And the one thing was I didn't want to sell them, so I made this crazy price. And I wasn't making many of them because Ryan now sees that it's each one of them I pretty much have to build or machine the fly reels. So I made this one thing thinking, well, if you're, you know, you probably heard a million times, like, oh man, can I get a deal? I'm so good, or Captain Wise. For my world, they're always like, this is like a captain's handshake or post-staff handshake. It's like, here's my hands, give me. You know, they put their hand out in front of you. Like, hey, I'm cool. I'm so-and-so. I've never used your product, but I want to use it. I'm like, I'm sponsored. I'm like, if you haven't used it, then how do you know you like it? You might hate our stuff, right? And so I kind of was like, kept hearing these people say this stuff. So I was like, all right, you're so bad to the bone, you buy a reel and you catch all these fish because you travel the world, because you really are saying and doing what you do, then you deserve a free reel. Yeah. You know, and that's where it started. So like that was, people thought that was nuts for me to go down that road, but I was like, I don't care. You know, it's our business. We'll do what we want. You know?
Yeah, I think it's cool. There's so much chatter about that. And you got to spend a lot of freaking money to get those challenges done. I mean, they're not like you can just go do them in your backyard. You gotta travel. So
there's definitely a destination fish on each box.
Yeah, for sure. The GT,
like
that's an expensive one.
Like all the way on across the world.
I didn't like a lot of people realize that Hawaii is probably the least expensive place to try to go to the GT.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
A lot of people go there. I mean, not me, but like a lot of people go there for vacations or with family, and then they could slip away for a day. Like when you go to the Seychelles or you go to somewhere like
you're
else,
committed.
You're committed, and usually it's just you.
Yeah.
So that's a way that you can kind of work it in. Yeah, I mean, we've had one person complete it.
Really? Only one? I knew it was going to be a tough challenge to do.
Yeah, so he did the MF, and it was pretty cool because first I thought people were just kind of like wasn't paying attention to it, and maybe we didn't talk about it that much. I mean, Ryan came on board and was like, Wes, you make these things and you don't really tell anybody really how to, you don't explain them right. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a box challenge. It's like, here's a box. You know, how much more do you need to explain? You know, it's like, get a free reel.
Yeah.
He's helped me on that side, but like, it was interesting. I was on the way down to the Atlanta show, and man, I get this phone call, man. It's like, my wife calls like, man, Andy Bowen's trying to get in touch with you. And I'm like, I know. I got to give him a call back. And I'm the worst at calling people back.
You and me both.
I got you beat. I guarantee that's everybody. I feel bad about it, but it's like at night when I leave the shop at 9 at night or so, I'm like, they don't want me calling them now.
Do you have those specific people that like always happen to call you at the wrong time, and you're like, oh, I need to call them back, and there's like 4 or 5 friends that I suck at calling back because they always call me when I'm on the water, when I'm eating dinner with my wife or something like that. I can never call them back.
And you know the ones that no, they first call, then it's a text, like, dude, seriously? And then they call my name in the text. And then I'm like, text them back a nasty name. And then it goes like, all right, I promise I'll call you at like 8 o'clock in the morning, you know? And that's why we're on this now talking at the time, because as the day starts, it's great.
Yeah.
As the day ends, it's just everything gets
crazy.
popped.
That's like me too. I'm a little ADD and I'm a great procrastinator. So it's like the end of my days are always full of stuff, or I'm just sitting on the couch doing nothing, not wanting to do anything. So, but I'm sorry, I interrupted you about the box challenge. So to explain to people, so people are listening, like exactly what that is real quick. So if they end up buying a reel, they know what to do.
So each reel comes with a different box or different species, but there's 4 of them each one. So like the MF, we got this box right here for the MF. So we got striper, rooster, albie, and permit. So pretty much you catch all 4 of those fish with your Seigler reel, take a picture, send it to us, and once you complete all 4, we'll send you a new free reel. Which is pretty cool to see though, because a lot of people just get really stoked that they call it like a rooster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a cool fish to catch on any fly reel, but it's really cool. They're like, oh, mark one off for me. You know, they're super stoked about it.
Yeah.
And as a fly fisherman, you know, I get excited when people catch stuff. So it's really cool, and we're talking about staying connected with our customers. And that was the most important thing. And it does really work, because I get a lot of messages all day long. People send me pictures. Man, I caught one, or I had one on, got put to the boat and lost it, maybe next. So, but yeah, it's definitely, there's one fish that's kind of the destination fish on each box.
And then there's a skill fish. Like there's a reel, perms on that one, or I kind of like the SF. I was trying to think of those. It's like a bonefish. They're not that hard. Everybody knows you can catch those. But then I put a little sneaker fish in there. I put a sheep's head in there, because they're like a fish of mine, and like that, like a trigger fish. They've haunted me, and then now it's like I figured them out, so it's like a little different,
Yeah, for sure.
And again, like a GT is not a hard fish to catch, as long as you're in the right place and you can cast in the wind and throw big things.
Yeah.
But getting to
the right place is the tough part with the GT.
Right. That's exactly. So, and it's just like a redfish on one of the boxes, but yeah, I think the biggest challenge now is any new product we have is trying to come up with, I kind of like that the BF boxes, GT, tarpon, sailfish, and tuna. I'm like, because there's other stuff. I mean, we're, this time we're like making things, and, it stinks about the IFTD things, but we'll make our own party, man. We'll just figure it out.
Right.
But, roadshow, but we've got some things that we're playing with, and it's either we know that the fresh is important for a lot of people. We didn't realize how big that world is, but
it's a big world, man, especially in the fly fishing. I mean, it trumps the saltwater. You see the saltwater more on social media and all that, but the freshwater is where 90% of the business is done. So.
Oh yeah, sure.
We see the same thing on in conventional. Everybody wants to see the billfish, the marlin, the tuna, except all that.
Right.
But if people looked at this, the statistics of it all, and it comes down to bass is, absolutely so far ahead because anybody can do it. And number two, nobody would ever guess it. The market for catfish. Catfishing is
huge.
By far, like can't even tell you, like 75 times bigger than all saltwater combined.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts, but because you can go out and do it, and that's how freshwater trout fishing is, or any kind of freshwater fly fishing is. You just take your rod out of your car, go down on the bank and cast it, and boom.
For sure.
It's great bone fishing or wherever, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it's we're limited, and especially nowadays,
Yeah.
we're kind of inside doing nothing.
I think the big thing you got to think about is accessibility. Like bass and catfish, water temperature wise, they can live throughout the entire country, and everyone can access a bass or a catfish within probably 10 or 15 minutes of their house. And so saltwater, redfish, there's such a tiny percentage of people. It's probably the most caught saltwater fish. Maybe striper. Maybe striper is the most caught saltwater fish on the East Coast. But there's such a tiny percentage of people when you look at the whole country that actually can access that on a regular basis. So yeah, the catfishing thing's huge, man. I look at some catfishing YouTube channels. I don't know why I never catfish, but I like watching these dudes that are hardcore catfishing guys. And they're intense, man. And they're not going to buy one of your reels. They're going to buy 40 of them because they'll put 40 rods and reels off the back of their boat. It's crazy, and little bells and everything. So no, I'm with you on that. I think diversifying in any business is important, and those catfish guys are badass. They're cool dudes. So
they're hard to support.
The guys that catfish here catch the biggest striper that we have in our river system because they're sitting there with big chunks of bait on the bottom or big live herring or something, and they're catching the biggest striper that anyone sees. A lot of people don't even realize we have that biggest striper in our river, and these guys are just keep it quiet, don't tell anybody about this. But well, how long have y'all been doing the fly reels?
I guess it's been, I'm trying to think about it now, it's been 3 years. 3 years for the public, and probably 2 years before that I developed it and was making it. So it's not been that long. I mean, and it was a very soft launch. I just kind of made a reel and just showed up, kind of set it in the booth. And I actually remember the conversation I had at ICAST. I was kind of put on the edge of fly world and conventional world, and I put one wall that had a picture of a fly reel, and it was not even anodized. It was just a fly reel I made. And man, it was crazy because wasn't in the show, but I spent all the time, and I had one guy that worked for me at the time was just man, you're wasting your time. Why did you spend so much time talking to people about the fly reel? like the business is over here. And I'm like, I get it, man, but like, it's what I like to do, you know? It's like, and it's something so different that I could actually, you know, I had a little security with the conventional reels and the design and the make and how long they've been going on. I mean, we've been making reels since 2009, but this fly reel was so different. Like I did it totally different than anybody, and I kind of didn't care what anybody else thought because I made it for problems around myself, the guide friends that some of those guys, you know, and people that have just been on trips that, you know, every single piece of that reel is there's a reason behind the shape or this or that. There's a person behind it. So you know, so it was kind of interesting to make the fly reel and then to see where it's gone to. And you know, I think where it could go. I mean, who knows? Like definitely bigger and definitely smaller.
Yeah,
that's pretty easy way to say it, right?
For sure. I think. Let's talk a little bit about the drag because that's the biggest, in my eyes, when I look at it, like that's the biggest difference. And as a guide, I see that as such an effective tool for a client because, you know, you tell a client to tighten the drag down on a normal fly reel, and a lot of times they'll freaking clamp it down. And I don't see that as much now. I do some amberjack fishing and stuff in the summer and some cobia fishing on the fly rod, and that's where drag really plays in. Little redfish. I mean, you can clamp the drag down. You probably won't break them off. But like when I was guiding in Louisiana more, I'd have people, you know, need to tighten the drag down and break a fish off. Or same thing with amberjacks, especially amberjacks, because they're digging down trying to get on a wreck, and somebody's sitting there cranking on it, and you'll break through. You know, you either break your fly line or you'll break through your leader. But how did that drag system kind of come into play?
Well, I was on one of my trips, and I had a guy that had a world record. Actually, it was one late night. We're on the back of the Maizdugan, and we're in Cosmo, and this guy's on the stern of the boat has all these real world records catching big eye trevally, which I had no idea like what they were. I mean, I was so new into this, but I love certain kinds of fish, and I was like, man, this dude is like tying these leaders, man. He's like, he had like micro glasses, like all this weird stuff, and I'm going. All of a sudden, he's like, and stripping the line out the back of the boat and boom, pop. And then he starts palming his reel and pop. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I know how much pressure it is. And the first thing I'd said to him, just being like, I could care less. I was just like, oh, yeah, what do you do? Like lotion your hands? Like, how do you know how much pressure? Because in bill fishing or offshore fishing, you use the drag, you set your drag, you use your scales at night before you go out. If anything varies a touch, you put it down. You're like, that's something's wrong with that reel. Right. And you never drag your hands or thumbs on the bells or anything. You try not to ever. Because, and then that kind of made me think, I'm like, bill fishermen use a lot of fiberglass rods. They've got all this heavy duty terminal tackle. And then you get to the technology of their equipment isn't really there. It's still in the mid 80s, 90s, and some of the guys' rods are getting much, much better. But most of the guys with big sport fishes are using glass rods and big heavy equipment.
Yeah.
Fly guys, nano resin rods. You've got leaders, the tippets, and you've got braking, and you've got like flies, and you've got hooks, and you've got all these crazy little knots, and they're like agile. Super techno out. But yeah, and then you get to like the drag, and then they're like, oh, let's just palm the thing. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. This has got like, so I knew that if you could limit somebody's drag range, which nobody can do in the business, like that's what we did. Like, I just knew that if I could make it where you use one hand and like, I don't like the idea of switching hands. Like, I think it doesn't make sense. When I'm pulling on a fish, it's better to pull on this certain arm. You cast this way, and then you kind of roll your hand to the right once you stick a fish, and you can just roll the pressure on. Yeah. And it was purely about like shutting down a fish, but yet to your breaking strength. So then the next thing on that was just like, how do you make it easy where you preset it and then you don't have to think about it? And that came up one day when I was in one of those islands out there, and we're eating lunch like usual, and you're like sitting there, and your last fish you had was probably a GT on your 12, and it's just sitting there. And all of a sudden, here comes a shark, and then you're eating this little sandwich, and they're like, get it. And you jump up, and you go to strip your line, and it goes, and you're like, oh, hold on. Do that whole thing, try to roll cast it out, get your line out, and then it's a total
takes too much time.
yeah, and those fish are fast and they're gone, done. So the system came up there where you just pull the lever forward and you can dump, start stripping. And then once you make your cast, you never switch hands. You can just once you clear your line, you just feather on the drag as much as you need. And you know what it is. So to me, it made total sense.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I kind of came across people like Scott and Joel, Brian, Sarah, Chris Sheeters, and all these people that started going ping, 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 coming around me. And they were like, you mean I can, I remember Scott saying, you mean I can set the drag specifically to the amount I want? And I'm like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm like, set it and leave it alone. Don't touch the little blue thing again. So, and he was like, well, I could have one on my boat, and then all of a sudden it became I want one on my right hand, I need one on my left hand, because my client will bring their own gear, and then their stuff will get messed up, and I'll pull out one of yours and let them use it.
Yeah.
And I've already preset it, so they just have to move the lever. And once someone figures it out when they're fishing, it's like, they basically, it's a, yeah, you see it, and then it shows when you see customers come by the booth and they're like, they own them and they're like with their friend going, oh, look, you just go like that, when I'm like, and then like this, and all of a sudden you're like laughing because it went off. And when it does go off, it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
I think like Joel, for example, was one of the ones that really told me, well, there's another guy kind of started me, and then Joel realized how many rods the reel will save. Because once you get
that's a really good point.
It's like, boom, he's like, I get a fish on, and then in offshore fishing, you're bringing in the fish and your reel, and once the wire, guy on the leader starts to leader your fish, he then, once you get he's on the wire and he's on it, then you dump it to free spool in case that fish blows out of his hands, and then you just point the rod and then you just roll back on the drag. So all of a sudden I was telling these guys, once somebody gets on the bow and you imagine you're leaning back, you've walked back in the cockpit and you're going down to grab that leader, that tarpon, and when you get down there to grab it, and all of a sudden, once you grab it, I just dump it in a free spool. If he blows out of your hands or a shark chases it or whatever, you can then roll on your line quick after you get clear of everything your boat. It happened with Court down in Clearwater with us. The first test day I've ever took the reel with somebody outside of just myself and a close friend. And we had a huge tarpon smash it at night, and then they went through the pilings, and I just dumped it in free spool. He ran through, then he came back to the same gate, and we were like,
you were like, we've got something. We've got something here.
So that's kind of it's definitely trials, but it didn't go very far. The originals, we got them still sitting around here. But then we had to refine it because it was definitely ugly. And everybody's worried about the lever getting caught with line. And I tell you, my best friend screamed at me. He's a super avid fly fisherman, fished all over the world, has taught me about it, got me into this whole thing. And he was like, if that lever catches the line one time, you're done. I'm like, shut up. Shut up. I try to half hitch it. I'm throwing line on it at the shop, trying to do all these weird things. And, so some people worry about that. No, it doesn't get in the way. The whole, it's kind of a weird whole design too. If people talk about sealed, too, and we sit around and just laugh about sealed because we're like, reason why I made it to be taken apart is because I remember on one of those first trips over in the Seychelles, I didn't ever get to see all these cool reels, but I'm a reel maker, so I love looking at reels. So if a guy's on a boat, something goes wrong, I'm like, let me see it. I'll take it apart. I can figure it out.
Yeah.
I got a file and a knife or something. I can get into it. And a couple of guys were like, I can't get into these. I was like, dude, you got that reel? Can I see it? He's like, yeah, it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, that stinks. Let's get in it. He goes, you can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. Then I get at it, and I'm like, I can't. I need my shop to make a tool, get inside of it to hold it. And it kept going on and on. And I was like, this is crazy. And the only reels that were still surviving over there, ones that for guides, were ones that they could take apart. So that's kind of why, some of the take apart, seal, I believe in it like cars on a brake, brakes on a car. I always tell people that story. When you're driving down the road, you got your GT3 car, right? And you're sliding down the road, and all of a sudden the light goes from yellow to red, you don't worry that the Porsche can't stop in the rain, do you?
Right.
I mean,
No.
it doesn't have covers and seals on the brakes. I mean, everybody nowadays, 95% of cars on the market today, brakes are pretty exposed,
Yeah.
as long as it's the right material. Not that theirs are exposed. It is encapsulated. You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
But
it is good to be able to take it apart. I've had plenty of I've always fished Nautilus for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I've had to take plenty of those apart, and they're a pain in the butt to get apart and put them back together. And they say they're sealed. You're never going to have to take them apart, but that's not true at all. So,
as a professional like yourself, or like a weekend fisherman, or a person that's a destination fisherman that's going to fish 4 times a year, where they might fish a week for 4 times, so 4 weeks of fishing, that's a lot of fishing.
Right.
Those are the ones that are also, it's kind of, you got to be extra paying attention. It's kind of like a guide's boat. He doesn't have to worry about it starting every morning because you're on it every day.
Right.
The people that are coming on vacation and jump on their boat every 2 times a year, you got to worry. So maintenance and being able to take it apart and go inside it or look at it and clean it, it's a good practice. We recommend it to anybody. It doesn't change a warranty. It doesn't matter what reel we had. If you get jammed up, we could get on one of these things and go, oh, that little thing, flip it over, put that on.
Yeah, that's super cool. So here's a question for you. When are y'all going to integrate voice activation to your reels like Alexa? So you could be like, Seigler, tighten drag. And then the drag tightens down a little bit on it while you're fighting the fish.
We're going to find out how many people watch this. I have a patent idea right now that I am so sick and tired of hearing on their other world that's not this world. Actually, we could do it on this one too, because I do hear it a lot. I wanted to make a Bluetooth activated cell phone clicker because I hate clickers. They get on my nerves. So offshore guys, they said, I need it louder, I need it quieter, I need it this. I'm like, well, just turn it up on your phone. You have your clicker go off, and it's like on your cell phone. Or
That's
put it in your stereo. Oh, the clicker's going off. So clickers could be one of those things that voice activated.
Oh, for sure. I think we're going to see it soon. Not in like reels and rods and stuff as much, but like your low rants, your Simrad, your trolling motor. You know what I mean? Where you could say like, like Minn Kota, turn left slightly, or keep turning. You know what I mean? I feel like voice activation is going to be a big thing that comes into play. I wish I knew how to do stuff like that because I would start making a voice activated trolling motor or GPS right now, but I don't really know how to do much anything.
Yeah, I'm just on that, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Go for it. Go for it.
A little more left. No, you idiot. Go back the other way.
Yeah, I'll be cussing that.
Spinning circles. Yeah, maybe the GPS. Like, what's the water temperature? What are my coordinates? That kind of stuff. How deep is it? But that's sweet. So let's talk a little bit about y'all's other reels because that's kind of what y'all started with, your bread and butter, and there's 2 fly reels, right?
There's 3 now.
There's 3 now. Okay, sweet. Awesome.
So we got the big one, the BF, and that's kind of like our 12 plus. Then we got our MF, it's like our 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
And then we got our SF, it's like 6, 7, 8.
Nice.
So,
Heck yeah.
So here's our conventional.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, if you can see conventional, we have 7 models out. This is our smallest. This is our SGN. It's a lever drag as well. That's probably our most popular, especially the kayakers and stuff like that. And then we move all the way up to our OS, which is our offshore small. That's our kind of our billfish kind of guy. And they're all pretty much built the same, just different sizes. And we got a surf caster as well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the whole side of like the way how he can have so many little models and cover the board. It's kind of like our fly reels. All the parts, I try to keep them as universal for all the reels as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Clamps for little reel to the big reel will work together. Same way on fly reels. Somebody calls and said, hey, I dropped my lever. The lever works on a BF and an MF and an SF together. Preset knots. All the parts are interchangeable.
Gotcha.
Except, of course, like the drag. There's a couple pieces in there that are different. Of course, like a spool and a main case. But it's part of like, because we make everything right here. And there's no big box of sand. It comes in from a different shop. It's like, yep, we make it. And we can tell you like, yep, that was that batch. Mm-hmm. I remember that. Or, and we don't really make too big of batches. I mean, people probably think we make thousands of things. I mean, we make about 500 reels a month in this shop for across the board from conventional to fly, and fly's probably about 50 to 75 reels a month. You know, we'll do little batches of about, 150, 200 of the fly reels. And then then they go through the process of from machining out of raw billet pieces to, deburring them where you use a knife and you're cutting the edges and trying to make them not sharp, to polishing, to sending them out to anodize. So when you get the color, that's done outsourced. We send it up the road we have 2 shops that do it. And then, we get them back and we assemble them and basically put them in little boxes, and we burn the boxes, and yes, we do, and stain the boxes. And
do you really? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's not that awesome.
That's true. It's cool from the consumer, man. The time that's put into it and like the love and the care for the product is awesome. And I think you see a lot of, maybe like in your spin fishing world, people don't care as much about that kind of stuff, but offshore guys, fly guys, surf casters, I think they really want their gear to work well. They don't mind spending extra money. Kayak guys as well, like they're going to go out with a little bit of gear and they want it to work well and to be able to trust it and to know, to know that the people that built the reels, like I'm 100% going to start selling my reels and buying y'all's reels after this talk. So it'll be a slow transition, but it's definitely going to happen. So just to be able to build a relationship. I mean, I've been fishing. I mean, I like Nautilus reels. They're great reels, but I've been fishing with them for a long time, and I've got no relationship with anyone at Nautilus. And to be able to like have a relationship built with the person that of the product you're fishing, I think is huge. I mean, that's been my favorite part about this whole conversation. So, with the start of building the more conventional reels, was that a side of the fishing that you used to do a lot more of, or was that kind of the niche market that you saw there in Virginia Beach as you started?
Well, we were up on the Chesapeake Bay a little farther north about 2 years ago almost. We moved down here. It was just, I went offshore and I just retired from bike racing, and I was kind of like getting my other world back to fishing because I love fishing as a kid. That's all I did, and played sports and fished. And I was offshore, and we had this white marlin bike that went off here.
Oh yeah, I've heard the stories.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's really what happened. I mean, literally, I called some boys at Shimano, and we're like my guy ahead of like marketing, and I said, dude, can you hook me up with some reels? He'd hook me up with anything. He said, what kind of wheels? And I'm like, reels, not wheels. And he said, make stuff, make your own. And that was the worst thing that probably could have happened. And then just led from there that striper fishing was really big, and trolling for them. I know it sounds kind of boring, but the art of trolling like tons of rods is kind of like kite fishing. So if you had first, it's like 6 rods and people think they're doing something. Then you're like 12. Then all of a sudden, I was fishing with a good friend of mine, Sammy Fisher, and did a lot of tournament fishing and with him, and it's like 36 rods.
Oh my 36. Gosh. Can you even turn? Can you turn it all?
You can turn, you can do it, and you're like working lines, and you're like, and it's like, I got the left side, and the worst thing you could ever see is a pond tag in the water because you have to clear lines, and you're like, because they would pick up on the, leaders and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like, the light small was it. We could make a powerful little reel. And the way we made it was, in the very beginning, I designed it to go for big stripers because like 40, 50-pound fish for nothing. You just call through like those size fish a lot. And they're kind of like, they're not the biggest fighters. So we had to test them, and we would go off to offshore wrecks and stuff like that. And a friend of mine, close guy, Ryan Rogers, and I would go out there on his boat, and we'd fish off the towers for AJs. And, they will test your stuff. Bam,
oh, yeah.
Little reel. At that time, people were drinking almost 30s out there to mess with those, and awkward. So we got little jig sticks and started doing real light tackle. And then it just kept going. Like I'd have this one single model. I mean, I remember walking into a tackle store and in the early days, and the guy was like, how many SKUs you have? And it's actually Fred Tackle Direct. And I'm like, I didn't even know what a SKU was. Dude, I was like, what's a SKU? And the sales rep at the time looked at me and goes, hold on, Wes, really? I'm like, no, what is it? He goes, well, you have this color and this color. That's 2. Now you have 2. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Got 2 SKUs.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
In a meeting where they said they would commit to me to buy a product that we were making one at a time. And then it just kept going like, somebody was like, I need a little bigger one. And I'm like, make a next size. And the same way with the fly reels. I mean, I got pushed heavy into the SF by Joel Dickey. Heavy. That was his big thing.
Yeah.
He wanted that stinking reel so bad, and and I just like Scott or somebody. I mean, every one of these people push me and ask for something, and I always say to people, like, I always listen for the wish. Like, I wish you just had a blah blah blah. Like, you might say, I wish that this was like this, and that's what I'm listening for. And it's not that, it's crazy because that's all like I accidentally listen for subconsciously, and then all of a sudden I'm at home at night drawing late at night trying to figure it out. So
that's cool.
And it's this year at IFTD I'm sitting there, actually it was a Jersey show. I'm walking by a good friend of mine, like, that's how this whole thing starts. Relationships, look, that's where it is. I'm like going by friends, old blue halo quartz. I'm like, what's up, dude? And his little bald head and everything, his big beard. And I'm like, what's up? And I'm like, there's nothing in my world that's like Court, right? I got hair. I got no beard. I'm tall. He's little.
I can relate to him.
I can relate to him as well.
Yeah, there you go. So I go by his booth, and his like slow glass rods. It's like, oh, I'm into this smoothness, and and I'm like, I like fast, powerful rods that can shoot in the wind. I like that.
Yeah.
But I walk by his booth, and I see this one rod that he just made, and I was like, damn it. I'm like, that is the sickest little noodly looking thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's like all the color. It was like I was like, I gotta make a like three weight, I guess. I was like, what weight is that thing? And he told me, and I was like, I gotta make something. I want to make it super uber like minimalist. And he just, that's where it started, and it's been in my head bad. And he knows, like, I'm driving down the road screaming out the design of how to do it on the way back from Atlanta. So that's how it starts.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome, man. That's super cool. And I've always wanted to. You talked about that white marlin bite. Have y'all gotten some of those on the fly up there? Have you been able to?
I haven't. It's been funny because once I started making reels, it's like the less fishing I did offshore, and then all of a sudden it was like closer home, and there was more inshore. And I think that's what fly kind of came around, because I would get up in the morning and I wouldn't even use my big boat anymore, and just sat at the dock. And the next thing I was like, I got a little skiff, I got a little dolphin. Next thing you know, I'm tiller skiffing around everywhere and casting inshore. Next thing you know, it's on fly, because you can go out quick.
Yeah, for sure.
So like getting back into that, I definitely need to go play with some billfish. I know Chris and I have been talking about it, and Brian, and about, I got to get down there and mess with them. I just still love the ability just to walk down something and just see my own fish. Like, I don't want you to tell me where my fish is.
Right.
Like, I want to, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so it's kind of a little different piece right now, for me. So, and time constraints, but yeah, it's everybody in the shop here pretty much fishes except for probably one. I think it's one person.
You probably need one guy that doesn't fish. Like, he doesn't care about the fish. He just cares about the product, and you can get a little sidetracked by the fish sometimes. So.
Yeah. Sure. We've taken him and we put him on big things. He's caught big crazy fish, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool." And we're like, "You just caught a Goliath. That was pretty seriously cool." And
fished my whole life. I've never caught one of those.
Yeah,
right.
And then he's like, gets back to the office. He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You want to go fishing tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he never calls you. You ping him at 5:30 in the morning over and over. And then like I said, a nighttime, daytime thing. Like, you can't get up in the morning. So
yeah, for sure. Well, is there any? This might be a question you can't answer, but is there anything new in the works? So y'all have some new stuff. You're talking about the smaller reel. Is there anything else to keep our eyes out for with Seigler Reels?
I mean, I think the big thing is, like, I think we're going to be making a road show tour because of this fall. The Sprinter van will visit you soon. No, I definitely working on right now is a tarpon reel.
Nice.
I mean, I'm just tell it. I don't care.
Yeah. Just
I'm going right for it. Like,
yeah,
it's Joel wants this reel, and he won't shut up until I make it, and I made it, and now it's so close to being right. It's high retrieval rate. That's in the immediate works. The other works is it's something for somebody very special to me. It's Chris Sheeter. I'm making something that's really, 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 really big for bill fishing, and that dude's been a believer in us, and it means so much to me that, like, I don't care if we sell one. I don't even care if we sell 0, because Chris Sheeter is the best bill fisherman, period, I think, for fly in the world. And he's believed in us and as a company and people, and he could have anything in the world he wants, and he's he just, that's to me. So you know what? He's going to get a Chris Sheeter one, and that's, if we only sell 0, then good. I don't care.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So then that's kind of super nichey, but then I do think we have an area, for what I saw down in your area, down to Charleston. It's a huge thing for me. I'm talking to Ryan about it every day. It drives me crazy is that we make this fishing reel, and I have these kids that I have a gap of people that pay it, that know about us. Like the gap is, I would say between
35 and up,
and 55, right? So the guy that's retired kind of knows about us, or the guy that's has a little time, and usually a business owner that wants to support a business that believes in us. But yet we have this crowd of kids. I'm at the Hadrill's Point event, right? And I'm there for their low country event, and I get a little dude come up, and he's like, "Hey, sir," picks up the reel, right? And he's like, and I'm like, "Yeah, how you doing, buddy?" And his granddad's with him, right? And he's like, "This is the best fly reel in the world." It's got the trophy next to it, and I'm like, "No, dude, it's not. I mean, it's just a fishing reel, right?"
Right.
And he's like, "No, it's the best." And the granddad looks at it, he's like, "Yeah, it's a fishing reel." And he's like, "You like one?" He's like, "Yeah." And then all of a sudden he goes, "How much is it?" And I'm like, he just picked up the BF, and I'm like, $1,500.
Right.
And the grandpa's like, "Put it down." I'm like, "Nah, it's cool. He can hold it. He can do whatever. It's a fishing reel."
Don't breathe on
it. So after that happened the first time, I counted, and I think it was on that event, the first year I was down there, we had 12 or 13 kids come by between under the ages of 16 that knew. And I asked the little dude, I was like, "Dude, what do you fish for?" He's like, "I fish for bass and I fish for drum." And I'm like, what's your favorite fly? He's like, "Clouser." Totally Clouser. I mean, these are skateboarded out looking kids that should not be fishing. And I'm like, whoa. Next you know, another kid. And I'm going, I am now I'm so irritated, beyond belief. He knows, it bothers me to death that I wasn't a kid that could buy all this crazy expensive stuff growing up. But I'm like, this kid could get a kayak, he could get a boat for as much as a reel costs.
Right.
I mean, he could get a boat. And I'm like, a reel? That doesn't count the rod. So to me, I got to figure out something for the little dudes, and I think I figured it out. And
the Grom is what it needs to be called. It needs to be called the Grom.
Yeah, exactly. The little Grom reel. That's it. That's it, because they believe in us, and I love talking to every one of those little dudes. Man, this guy tells me how I jump. I had 3 looks and 2 takes and 1 hook and 1 jump, and I'm like, okay, cool. Next. Little dude's like, "Man, I just stuck a speckled trout. I stuck a speck right in his face." I'm like, yeah.
For sure.
But that's the kind of thing, I'm seeing that, especially your area down in Charleston, is man, it's the kids they are going on the water, and they are fishing with the fly rod and spinning rod, but the spinning rod's coming down and the fly rod's going up. We're hearing, and
for sure,
we're seeing kids are. I mean, and you got to give it to all these shops, these events and stuff. They're not old river runs through it stuff. We're not a bunch of Orvis khaki wearing, safari looking people. We're kids are tying their own flies, and they're getting into it, and they're having little, classes for kids where they come in, tie a fly, and leave, and that's what it's about. It's not it's kind of cool.
Yeah, the image of what someone who fly fishes is changing drastically, for sure. I mean, you're so right when you said safari looking, with the little cap and khaki shirts on, cargo shorts. That's not the fly fisherman anymore. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it will never be again.
I think a ton of credit's got to go out to Keith and the crew from South Africa. I mean, those guys came to the game and definitely changed it. And and you're watching it spawn all over.
Yeah.
But board shorts, backpack, running through the waves. You're not sitting on a rock or on the bow of the boat, just perched there going, "Oh, where is it?" And talking. It's dude, rod's breaking and stuff hanging up. I mean, that's what kind of drove me crazy to go to Cosmo on my first trip over there. I was I went to Alphonse and fished and caught so many different fish. You have no idea. I'm not one of these people that's I'm not going to blind cast. Yeah, I am. no fish around and there's a gut right there, I'm throwing it in the hole.
Yeah, for sure.
And something's going to eat. But like all of a sudden I got around there's like a little bit wilder, yet super gods. Like it just taught me, and I got to see like, man, I actually like this. This is like, you don't have to be, 10 and 2. It's like, just get the fly over there, man. And that's what I learned how to cast. Like, who cares what it looks like?
Get it over there and make sure it's quick.
It's out there.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's out there. This is just a thought that I just thought about. It's like blowing up a rod on a big fish is like when I used to skateboard a bunch as a kid and surf a bunch. It's like when you like go for something, you break your skateboard, or you pull into a huge barrel and it breaks your surfboard in half. Like that's how I feel like when I'm like hooked up to a big AJ and he like slams me into the gun, all my rod blows up and I break him off and I'm like, that was badass. Like I want to do that again. Even though it was like an $800 mistake, but it was still really cool. Yeah, exactly.
I had that experience. So everybody on the trips knew I was coming to making a reel, and this guy's at Seychelles, and they all knew I was coming with something. And I remember I get off the plane, I'm sweating profusely because I'm so nervous that I brought only the reels I made. Like I didn't bring one backup. And you make a trip like that, I had files, I had all the stuff to fix my little reels. And all the guys knew about it, and they were like, dude, bring it out, let's look at it. It had no anodize, it was totally junky looking little reel, had a lever. And one guy was like, I want you tomorrow. He goes, I know you don't like to, drum, like stir them up on top, with those little poppers. He's like, but let's just chest the drag really quick. There's some monsters. And first fish is like 8 a.m. First day, we smashed a massive one on it, and the new little rib just went and just put the e-brake on the dude, and we were using like 100-pound leaders, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And he went down, and I'm used to jigging one, so I'm pulling on the rod, and she just goes boom everywhere. And so before Josh could even get back to like try to help me, like I'm like reaching out, get the other part of the rod, holding it with my foregrip, like together, and I'm fighting it. It breaks again. I'm like, yeah. And then I just dead like swat him up to the boat, and it's like 3 minutes, and he's like, yep, your drag works. I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm bleeding because I don't know what cut me. It was probably a sharp piece of metal on my reel, and I think it was actually. And there's like a picture of a rod like over my shoulder. It's like this long, like, and it's like, yes, I don't care what that rod cost me, but it was like you said. And after then, I haven't busted up too much stuff, but It was a moment that I knew that this really could work, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Let me show you something real quick. These are from 3 rods from about a week ago shark fishing, all broken. All in one day. I broke one and my buddy broke 2 of them. They're all Scott rods I got to send back. So, it happens. You just got to laugh about it and hope that they'll
you don't even care at the moment. Like that has happened. High fives around the boat and grab the other one if you have one, or your friends, and hopefully don't break that one.
I think that's what we'll see. Like when that fish gets up close, especially shark fishing. I know there was an aha moment with Andrew from down in Jacksonville. They were fishing some stuff, and he has a fish on, and like he came up to me at the iCast show and was like, dude, you just didn't explain it right. And I'm like, what? And he's like, the lever, like when the shark gets up under the boat, you can dump it and let him, when they decide to do some weird stuff. And you have the power to get right back on him really quick without, that helps the rod guys in their warranty department. So, no, it's tough, but like, it is a feature, handles, big handles for that, all that stuff. But no, I think sharks are one of the fish that we kind of thinking about around here. Like this summer, we're going to have some fun with cobia, and definitely sharks.
The sharks are so fun.
Yeah, it's like
I could just fly fish for sharks and be completely content. Yeah. But no, I think that's huge. That lever being able, when you were mentioning that earlier, be able to release it by the boat, like. Even albacore fishing in the fall and the spring, like I break a couple rods. Clients break their rods because you have them. They're doing that little tuna circle into the boat, and they decide to go that way, and it just rod on the gunnel and breaks it. Barely even has to hit it, but if you got that built up amount of pressure, and you got to reach over and undo your drag, on a traditional reel, you just can't do it quick enough on a fish like that. If they're gonna break you, it's gonna be way too quick to do anything about it. But with that quick lever, man, you could do it so much quicker, which is awesome. So. Is there? So we're kind of. I have to run here in just a second. I wish we could keep going for a long time. Is there anything else that y'all want to touch on or talk about before we get off the podcast? And we'll probably have to do another one. Like maybe every time y'all come out with a new product, we'll just hop on. This is a fun one. We can just talk about it and let people know about a new product or something like that. So.
Well, I think, man, the big thing is that during all this craziness going on, I mean, I think everybody's just got to remember just to support local and like, just remember like these fly shops. I mean, right when it was going down, Ben Bueller sent out something and he just said, hey guys, just if you can go into a shop and just buy one thing, it makes a huge difference. It does. For us, it makes a difference. I mean, it keeps us, all of us fed and really does keep us fed. We don't make a lot of other stuff around here at all. I mean, it's fishing reels and every once in a while I'll do a little side thing, but, it's, support each other and, we'll make it through it and let's just keep fishing.
Definitely. I think that's huge. Support local, especially like 90% of, not all of it, but a lot of the fly fishing world is a passion project. Like people are doing it because they love it. They're not doing it because they're trying to make $1 billion. They're doing it because they really love the people and they love the product. And I see that with y'all for sure. So yeah, definitely, you guys, if y'all haven't, I'm gonna shut the show down now. I'll do a little outro. But if y'all haven't, taken a good look at Seigler Reels, definitely check them out. Whether you're looking at conventional or trolling reels or fly reels, I'm definitely gonna start making the switch over to their stuff, and I think that y'all should as well. So. Go give them a follow on Instagram. I'll have their website and all their social media platforms listed in the show notes on the podcast, as well as the YouTube video. So check that out. And you guys, thanks so much for coming on. And we'll have to maybe get on the water sometime together or do something.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Have a guy at the workout, and we'll do it again. And, get on the water.
Right on.
Tell Will there.
Yeah, I will. I will tell Will. Hey, I can never keep up with him. He's all over the place. But next time I see him, I'll tell him what's up. But thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we will see y'all in the next episode. Later.